Hello, my name is Thomas Wallace, and I'm the president of the George Mason University Voice Acting Club. What you are about to hear is our club's semester project, a radio drama version of A Christmas Carol. But before we get going with that, I figured I'd give this little foreword to give some context, acknowledge some people, and get you used to the sound of my voice, since I'm the narrator and you'll be hearing it a lot. This version of A Christmas Carol comes from several sources. An original 1938 radio drama script by Orson Welles, The Muppet Christmas Carol, Scrooged, and, of course, the original novel by Charles Dickens, to ensure we are staying close to the spirit of the story, if you will. Like a patchwork quilt, we hope these various scraps come together to make something both new and beautiful in its own way. The composition and editing was done by yours truly, though I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my father, Robert Wallace, and my good friend Ashley Mowers as my script doctors/editors. I'd also like to thank all of the club officers/assistant directors, Jace, Sal, and Sean, and the audio lab monitors, Mariano, Ro, and Tiara, who helped us record the show. Additionally, I'd like to thank Dr. Robert Gillum, who helped with much appreciated advice and access to the recording studio. I'd also like to take a moment and thank all of the club members who partook in this production. The story of A Christmas Carol means a lot to me, and while our production isn't perfect, it is heartfelt, and I am grateful to all of you and all that you brought to this production. Lastly, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for taking the time to hear what we've put together. It means a lot to me, and all of us in the Voice Acting Club, to know that there's somebody out there that cares. Well, I hope you're used to the sound of my voice by now. Please enjoy as the George Mason University Voice Acting Club presents Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Marley was dead to begin with. There's no doubt about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge and Marley were partners for I don't know how many years. He was a tight-fisted nose-to-the-grindstone Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, clutching, covetous old sinner. And once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting-house, a grim, cheerless place if ever there was one. The door of Scrooge's counting-house was open so he might keep an eye on his clerk, Bob Cratchit, who, in a cold and dismal little room beyond, 15, 13, worked at his ledgers. 17, 7. Very gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. 23, 26, 29, 9, get it to Christmas Day.
Bob Cratchit?
Yes, Mr. Scrooge?
Stop that infernal caterwauling.
Yes, sir.
Singing their idiotic Christmas carols at my very door. Go on, get away from my door. Go somewhere else and bellow your blasted carols.
Why, Governor? It's an old custom at Christmas time, you know?
Yes, and I don't want any of your old customs. Take your fellow fools and go away! Christmas. Bah.
Well, Merry Christmas anyway, sir.
Ah! Hey, what are you doing there?
I'm only putting a bit more coal on the fire, Mr. Scrooge, seeing it's so cold in here, sir.
You put that coal back into the scuttle. A fire indeed. If you use coal at that rate, you and I will soon be parting company, Bob Cratchit. You understand that? There's many a young lad who'd like your position, you know.
I'm sorry, sir. My fingers were getting a little stiff with the cold.
Then put on your mittens. Cratchit, you get that letter from Higgins and Blackthorn. And, after that, you can pop over to the Partygoers and tell Ephraim Partygoer you've come after the 17 shillings and 6 he's owed me since September. And tell him I shall have a constable over there if he doesn't pay up at once.
Mr. Partygoer's wife has been ill, sir.
What do I care about his wife? I want my 17 and 6. Now, let's deal with the eviction notices for tomorrow.
But tomorrow's Christmas, sir.
Very well. You may gift wrap them.
At that moment, who should arrive at the door but Scrooge's nephew Fred, his only living relative.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle Scrooge. God save you.
Merry Christmas? Bah! Humbug!
Christmas? A humbug, Uncle? Now, I'm sure you don't mean that.
I mean exactly that. Merry Christmas? What right have you to be merry? What possible reason? You're poor enough.
Well, what right have you to be dismal, Uncle? You're rich enough.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools? What's Christmas to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? Merry Christmas! If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with a Merry Christmas on his lips would be cooked in with his own turkey and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle?
You keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep it, Uncle.
Well, let me leave it alone then. What do you want? A Christmas gift, I've no doubt?
I came to wish you a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
A Merry Christmas? And how much good has it ever done you?
Christmas is a kind, forgiving, and charitable time, and though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe Christmas has done me good, and will do me good, and I say, God bless it.
God bless Christmas! Hurrah!
Let me hear another sound out of you there, Bob Cratchit, and you'll be celebrating Christmas on the unemployment line. As to you, nephew, it's a wonder you don't go into Parliament. You talk enough nonsense.
Oh, don't be angry, Uncle. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends?
Good afternoon, nephew.
Now, in these times, it was customary on Christmas Eve for charities to call upon businesses, collecting donations for the poor and homeless.
Excuse me, this is the firm of Scrooge and Marley?
Who are you?
I'm from the Order of Victoria Charity Foundation. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Marley's been dead these 7 years tonight. I'm Scrooge.
Ah, welcome. My Uncle Scrooge is quite a jolly gentleman. He's very generous to charities.
My dear nephew.
Well now, Mr. Scrooge, at this season of the year, it's only fitting that we who are more fortunate should raise a fund to buy the poor some food and drink, and means of warmth. You may not believe it, sir, but many thousands are now in want of common necessities, and hundreds of thousands are in want of the simplest comforts.
Are there no prisons?
Well, there are plenty of prisons, sir.
And the poorhouses? They're still in operation, I trust.
I wish I could say they are not, but they are, sir.
Ah, I'm glad to hear that. For a moment I was worried.
No, sir. All these institutions that you mention are flourishing, but it's nevertheless true that some additional provision for the poor must be made. So, what shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
Oh, I see. You wish to be anonymous, sir.
I wish to be left alone. I don't make merry myself at Christmas time.
That is certainly true.
And I can't afford to help make a lot of idle people merry.
That is certainly not true.
Don't you have other things to do this afternoon, my dear nephew?
Sadly, I do. So I shall make my donation and leave you to make yours.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Uncle, come and have Christmas dinner with me and Clara tomorrow.
Oh, nephew, why ever did you get married?
Why? Because I fell in love, of course.
Ha! That is the only thing sillier than a Merry Christmas.
A Merry Christmas to you, Uncle, and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, Bob, and to the missus, and to Tiny Tim.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Fred. Merry Christmas.
Humbug. Nonsense, twaddle, flummery. Talking of Christmas and not 2 sixpences to jingle together in his trouser pockets.
Now, Mr. Scrooge, about the donation.
Right. My taxes go to pay for the establishments that take care of the poor. Let the poor and destitute go there.
Many can't go there, sir, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, then they had better do it, and increase the surplus population. Besides, I've only your word for it that all this is so.
But it's the truth, Mr. Scrooge.
Well, even so, It's not my business. It's enough for a man to take care of his own business and let other people take care of theirs. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, sir.
You have made yourself quite clear, Mr. Scrooge. Good afternoon.
Cratchit! Show this gentleman out.
Yes, sir. This way, sir, please. Sir, I would like to contribute tuppence.
Cratchit!
Yes, sir. It isn't much, but it's all I can afford. But there are others in a worse situation than I.
You're a generous fellow. I wish I might say so of your employer.
Cratchit!
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Cratchit!
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yes, sir.
Close the door.
Yes, sir. 24, 31, 1, carry 3, a new scarlet tippet for Tiny Tim, a comb for Martha, 33, 3 and carry 3, a hair ribbon for Belinda, 4, 7, 12, 15.
Cratchit!
Yes, sir?
It's too late to have you go to the Parthygills. He'll be closed up for Christmas like these other fools. We may as well close up the place now.
Yes, sir. It is getting a little dark. Hard to see the figures.
And I suppose you'll want the entire day tomorrow?
If it's quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient at all, and it's not fair. But I suppose I can't do anything about it. If I was to stop a day of your wages, you'd think it unfair to you.
Well, sir,
But you don't think it unfair to me when I pay a day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year, sir.
Once a year. Once a year, indeed. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose there's no good talking. You must have the whole day. But I expect you to be here all the earlier the next morning, you understand?
Oh, I understand. I will, sir. I will indeed. Good night, sir, and Merry Christmas.
Bah.
Soon the office was closed, and Bob Cratchit, with the long ends of his white scarf dangling below his waist, for he boasted no overcoat, went down a slide on Cornhill 20 times in honor of it being Christmas Eve. He then ran home to Camden Town as hard as he could, to play with his family at Blind Man's Bluff. Scrooge, on the other hand, took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern. Having read all the newspapers and spending the rest of the evening with his banker's book, he left for his dismal house, which once belonged to his deceased business partner, Jacob Marley. This evening, the yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone and pavement crack, had to fumble with his hands through the fog and frost to find his door. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing special about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it every night and morning since he took up residence in that place. And yet, as he unlocked his door, he noticed that the knocker was not a knocker, but, instead, the face of his long-dead partner, Jacob Marley. But then, as Scrooge looked again, he was relieved, though perplexed, that it was simply a knocker.
Humbug.
To say that Scrooge was not startled by this would be untrue. Still, the moment had passed, and the world seemed to continue as it should. He shut the door and climbed the main staircase, not caring an ounce about the darkness. Darkness was cheap, and Scrooge liked it. But the incident with the knocker had made Scrooge wary. He made a quick survey of his rooms to see that all was right. Sitting room, bedroom, spare room. All were as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet. He closed his door and locked himself in. In truth, he double locked himself in, which was unusual for him. He put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to eat his Christmas Eve feast, a bowl of gruel.
I could have sworn I saw Marley. Ah, humbug. Marley's been dead 7 years. Humbug. It's all humbug.
As Scrooge threw his head back in his chair, his glance rested on a bell that hung in the room. It was a disused bell, whose purpose was now forgotten. So it was with great astonishment, and with an inexplicable dread, that as he looked, the bell began to swing, and then ring loudly. But, as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Then there was a clanking noise, deep down below, as if someone was dragging chains across the floor. He heard a door fly open with a booming sound, and he heard the sound grow louder, coming up the stairs.
It's humbug still. I won't believe it.
The noise took form, and came through the heavy door, and as it passed into the room before his eyes, Scrooge saw the face of his deceased business partner, Jacob Marley.
Ebenezer Scrooge!
What do you want with me?
I want much of you, Ebenezer.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
You're very particular for a ghost. All right then. Who were you?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Jacob Marley? But you're dead. You died 7 years ago.
7 years ago this very night.
You're a ghost, then.
What's wrong, Ebenezer? Don't you believe me?
I do not.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef, or a blot of mustard, or a crumb of cheese, a fragment of underdone potato. There may be more to gravy than to crave about you. Dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me?
You, man with a worldly mind, do you believe in me? Or not?
I do. But why are you here? Why do you walk the earth, Jacob? Why do you come to me?
It is required of everyone's spirit to walk abroad among the world, and travel far and wide, to witness what it cannot share, but might have shared and made into happiness.
But what is that chain you wear around you?
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard by my own free will. Strange you don't recognize it. Yours was as heavy and as long as this, 7 years ago. You've labored long and hard on it since then, Ebenezer.
Oh, Jacob, speak comfort to me.
Comfort? I have none to give. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger. A constant, weary journey lies before me.
You travel?
Oh, yes, on the wings of the wind.
7 years dead and traveling all the time.
7 years, Ebenezer. 7 years with no rest, no peace. 7 years of incessant torture of remorse. Do you know that no amount of regret can make amends for squandering one's life?
Squander? Jacob, you left a legacy. You were always a good man of business.
Business? Humankind should have been my business. Love, mercy, benevolence. They were all my business. The dealings of my trade were a drop of water in the ocean of what should have been my business. Listen to me, Ebenezer. I am here to warn you that you have a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
Oh, thank you, Jacob. You were always a good friend to me.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
And that is my only chance and hope, Jacob?
That is your only chance and hope.
Well, then, if it's all the same to you, I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to escape the path I tread. Expect the first ghost this evening when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I have them all at once and have it over with?
Ebenezer, for your sake, remember what has passed between us. Remember, when the bell tolls 1, look for the first spirit.
As the bell tolled, Scrooge awoke. He was lying on his bed, fully dressed. Suddenly, the curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge was face to face with an unearthly visitor. It was a strange figure, like a child. Its long, flowing hair was white as if with age, and yet its face was without a wrinkle. The arms were long and muscular, the hands the same, as if the figure's hold were of uncommon strength.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
What are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
But what do you want of me? What brings you here to haunt me?
Your welfare.
A full night's rest would better aid my welfare.
Your salvation, then. Come, rise, walk with me.
Out of the window? Why, I can't do that. I'm mortal and I'll fall.
A touch of my hand upon your heart, and you shall fly. Come, follow me.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the window, and the city vanished entirely. They stood upon a country road on a clear, cold winter day, with snow upon the ground.
Where are we?
These are the shadows of the things that have been. You know this countryside?
Know it? I know every inch of it. Every rock, every tree. That's my old school. I was a boy here.
Scrooge was conscious of 1,000 odors, each connected to 1,000 thoughts and hopes and joys and cares, long, long forgotten.
There's Henry and Edmund, my best friend. Hello, boys.
These are the shadows of things that have been, Ebenezer. They can neither see nor hear you. Come, let us go inside.
And what a flood of memories came to him as Scrooge entered his old classroom.
I know it all so well, Spirit. The desks, the smell of the chalk. I chose my profession in this room.
And is that boy familiar?
Good heavens, it's me. Oh, I was so lonely. Poor boy.
Let us see another Christmas in this place.
They were all very much the same. Nothing ever changed.
You changed.
The years performed their terrible dance, and in a moment, Scrooge had seen his entire lonely childhood pass.
Your lip is trembling, Scrooge. And what is that on your cheek?
It's nothing. Nothing at all. I simply wish that It's too late now.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I'm simply reminded that there was a boy singing Christmas carols at the door last night. A poor, thin, lonely little boy. I should like to have given him something, that's all.
Come, Ebenezer. There is much to see. Do you know this place, Ebenezer Scrooge?
Know it? This is where I was apprenticed. It's my old master. Bless his heart, old Fezziwig.
Pick your partners.
My master, alive again, and hosting one of his Christmas parties.
There were dances, and there were more dances, and there was good food and plenty of beer. Scrooge couldn't help but smile as he relived his youthful revelry.
And there's Richard Wilkins. And there's Miss Fezziwig herself, looking younger than any of them.
Such a small matter for old Fezziwig to bring joy to those silly folk.
Small matter? Small indeed. Look at them.
Isn't it? He has spent only a few pounds of your mortal money. Is that so much that he deserves praise?
It's not the money, Spirit. Old Fezziwig got the power to make us happy or unhappy, to make our work light or heavy. His power lies in words and smiles and in so many seemingly inconsequential things that it's impossible to count them all up. The happiness he brought to us is worth more than any fortune.
Really? What is the matter?
Nothing. Nothing at all, Spirit.
Something, I think.
It's just that I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk, that's all.
My time grows short, and we have yet another journey to make. Come!
Scrooge saw himself again. He was older now, a man in the prime of his life. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion to him, which showed his passion for financial success had taken root, and where the shadow of a growing tree would fall. He was not alone, but sat beside a fair young girl, in whose eyes were tears, which sparkled in the light of the ghost of Christmas past.
Do you recognize yourself, Ebenezer?
Oh, no. Spare me this.
It matters little to you. Very little. I know that.
Belle, have I changed towards you?
When we were engaged, we were both poor.
Was it better then? Better to be poor?
Better at least to be happy. You're changed. You were another man then.
I was a boy. You blame me because I've grown wiser? Have I ever tried to break our engagement?
In words? No. Never.
In what then?
In your changed nature? In your altered spirit? In everything that made my love of any value in your sight. That love is gone. And so, I release you from your promise.
Belle!
It may cause you pain to lose me, but I have the confidence of knowing that it will be a very brief pain. Soon it will be dim, like a half-remembered dream, an unprofitable dream from which you will be glad to be awake. May you be happy in the life you have chosen, Ebenezer, for the sake of whom you once loved.
Spirit, why do you delight in torturing me?
These were the shadows of the things that have been. They are what they are. Do not blame me.
Leave me!
Hello, it's Thomas again. So, at this point in radio dramas, it's traditional to have a cheesy commercial celebrating our sponsors. In the 1938 version of the script, there was a Campbell's Soups commercial during this intermission. Given that they do not sponsor the Voice Acting Club, though I'm always open to negotiations, I figured I'd use this time to briefly advertise our club. And, give people time to, take care of any other business that they might need to do during a commercial break. So for all two of you who are wondering what exactly does the Voice Acting Club do, allow me to explain. As it says on our Club Mason 360 page, the Voice Acting Club is committed to being a positive and affirming environment where people can cultivate their voice acting talents, collaborate with other on-campus organizations, and help our members build a voice acting portfolio. Wow, that's dry. Let me color that in a little. The primary goal of our club is to be a fun, relaxing space for nerds who like to do silly voices, and then move past those silly voices and actually start acting with them. We want to help our members expand the range of what they are able to do with their voice. Our club also wants to work with other organizations at GMU. As you can hear right now, we've teamed up with our campus radio station, WGMU, to air this broadcast, and this past semester, we've also collaborated with the computer game design and film departments here at GMU. And lastly, should our members want to pursue voice acting as a career or hobby, our club wants to help our members build a voice acting portfolio, which is why we will be doing a noir radio drama next semester, with more info on that to come. I hope that has given you a better understanding of our club, or at least taken up enough time for you to take care of any additional business that needed to be taken care of. Let's continue with the story. At the tolling of the hour, Scrooge awakened suddenly and sat bolt upright in his bed. He remembered the words of Marley's ghost, and wondered from which direction the second spectre would appear. Prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing. So, When nothing happened, and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. Then, as he sat in his bed, he gradually became aware of a great light, which seemed to shine upon him from the adjoining room. He got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. It was his own sitting room, but it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were hung with living green. It looked like a perfect grove, from every part of which bright, gleaming berries glistened and a mighty fire went roaring up the chimney, such that had never been known in Scrooge's time, or for many and many a winter season gone. Heaped upon the floor, to form a kind of throne, were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, great joints of meat, suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. In easy state upon this couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, whose face shone like the sun, and who bore a glowing torch, in shape not unlike a cornucopia, and he held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge, as he came peeping round the door.
"Ebenezer Scrooge, come in, and know me better, man."
Who?
"I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. Have you never seen the like of me before?"
Never.
"How odd! I have had nearly 1,900 siblings who have walked this earth before me, bringing Christmas joy to humankind."
I'm sorry. No. Perhaps in a moment when I was younger, I might have caught a glimpse, but no. I have never really seen Christmas. But please, Spirit, take me where you will. Last time I went against my will and learned a lesson which is working in me even now. If you have anything to teach me, let me profit by it.
"Then, touch my robe."
As the room and night disappeared around them, Scrooge found himself standing in the city streets on Christmas morning. There was nothing cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness that dreary weather could not diffuse. Soon all the good people were about in the street, dressed in their best clothes, and with an insatiable luminosity that shone from their hearts. And perhaps it was the Spirit's kind, generous nature, and sympathy for all human beings, that led them straight to the house of Scrooge's clerk.
Why have you brought me here, Spirit?
"It's Christmas here too, you know. This is Bob Cratchit's house."
Mrs. Cratchit and her daughter Belinda were dressed in well-worn gowns, with numerous ribbons, laying the table for their Christmas dinner, while Master Peter Cratchit stoked the fire for the food. Then 2 children came tearing in and danced around the table.
Here's Martha, Mother.
Why, bless your heart alive, Martha, my dear. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Mother.
Merry Christmas. How late you are, my dear.
Oh, we'd a deal of work to finish up last night, and we had to clear away this morning.
Well, never mind so long as you're here now. Sit down before the fire.
Where's Father?
He's been to church with Tiny Tim. They'll be along directly.
How is Tiny Tim, Mother? Any better at all?
Sometimes I think he is. And sometimes I think, oh dear God, if anything should happen to Tiny Tim.
Mother, you mustn't even think of such a thing.
Here they are! Hey, it's Dad! Merry Christmas, everybody! Martha, welcome home, my dear.
Merry Christmas, Father and Tim.
Merry Christmas, Martha.
Oh, Tim, you darling. Oh, Father, I'm so glad to be home.
And we're so glad to have you.
Children, go finish setting the table. How did Tim behave in church, Bob?
Oh, as good as gold and better. As we were coming home, he told me that he hoped people saw him in the church, and that on Christmas Day, it might be good to remind them who made lame men walk and blind men see.
What a truly remarkable child.
Yes, Father, of course. Yes, children, we're all ready. Come take your places now. And Bob, wait your turn. There's plenty. Stuffing and dressing and plum pudding for all of you. Martha, you take care of Tim.
Yes, Mother.
You see that he eats plenty. He must get tall and well. Now sit down, everyone.
Spirit, Tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
My realm is in the present, not the future. However, I see a vacant seat in the chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered, I believe the child will die. What then? If he is going to die, he'd better do it, and decrease the surplus population.
Oh, Spirit, I had no idea.
And now, my dears, with such a dinner, a toast. A Merry Christmas to us all, and God bless us.
Amen.
God bless us, everyone.
And now, to Mr. Scrooge. I give a toast to Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast on, and I bet he'd choke on it.
My dear, the children. Christmas Day.
Oh, well, I suppose that on Christmas Day, it would be right for one to drink to the health of an odious, stingy, unfeeling man like Mr. Scrooge.
Emily!
You know he is, Bob. Nobody knows it better than you.
My dear, please, it's Christmas Day.
I'll drink to his health for your sake, and for Christmas Day's, not for his. Long life to him, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
And I say, God bless him too, Mother, and everyone.
Well said.
Spirit, I didn't know such grace could be found in a child, or that such love could exist in a home.
There was nothing of note in all this celebration. They were not an especially handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were worn, and many of their possessions had likely known the inside of a pawnbroker's. But they were happy, grateful, and truly loved one another. As the Cratchit family faded into darkness, Scrooge had his eyes upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. Scrooge made many calls that day with the ghost of Christmas Present. They went down among the miners who labor in the bowels of the earth, and out to sea among the sailors at their watch. The spirit stood beside sick beds, and yet they were cheerful. In foreign lands there was a feeling of home. To those in poverty their mood was rich. They went far and saw much, and always with a happy end. In poorhouses, hospitals, and jails, where those in their little brief authority had not shut the door and barred the spirit out, the spirit left their blessing. As Scrooge and the spirit continued their journey, the two were met with the sound of hearty laughter. It surprised Scrooge to discover that this laughter belonged to his nephew.
Fred! It's my dear nephew Fred and his wife Clara having Christmas with friends.
Then he said that Christmas was a humbug. He believed it too.
Well, shame on him.
Exactly. No shame. He's a funny old fellow, truth be told. However, his words carry their own punishment. I don't have anything to say against him.
Well, I have no patience with him.
Yeah. Well, I do. I feel sorry for him. I couldn't be angry if I tried. Who suffers from his ill temper? Him, and him alone. The consequence of him disliking us and not making merry with us is that he loses some wonderful moments. I'm sure he loses better company here than he can find in his thoughts, or his dusty old house. I intend to give him the chance to dine with us every year. Whether he likes it or not, I will continue to care for him.
After tea, the party broke into music and played games. There might have been 20 people there, young and old, but they all gladly partook, including Scrooge, who had completely forgotten that no one, save the ghost, could see or hear him.
Well, we've had the plum pudding and sung the carols. What now?
Let's play yes and no.
An excellent idea. I'll be it.
Yes, let Fred be it. He always thinks of good things.
I do have a good one, Clara.
Is it vegetable?
No.
Mineral?
No.
Animal?
Yes. What else?
What else indeed? Is it found on a farm?
Never.
In the city?
Usually.
Is it an agreeable animal?
Certainly not.
What about a dog?
No.
A cat?
A cat?
I said it first.
No.
Is it a savage animal?
Often.
Does this animal growl and grunt?
Oh, yes.
Is it a bear?
No.
A bull?
No.
A tiger?
No.
Does it walk about the streets of London?
Often. Oh, it's too wonderful.
Wait, I know it. A disagreeable savage creature in London, but not a bear, a bull, or a tiger.
Then what?
Then what?
It's Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes! Uncle Scrooge has given us plenty of merriment. It would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. To Uncle Scrooge, a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to the old man. He wouldn't take it from me, but may he have it nonetheless.
Uncle Scrooge! Scrooge had become so light of heart, even he laughed at the answer. He would have thanked the company in a long, inaudible speech if the ghost had given him time, but the whole scene disappeared around them in the breath of the last words spoken by his nephew. It had been a long day, if it had only been a day. And it was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, as the day wore on, the ghost grew older.
Spirit, do you grow old?
My life upon this globe is very brief, Ebenezer. A single day. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight at midnight. The hour has come.
Oh, no, not yet. Spirit, I've learned so much from you.
There is still one more spirit to learn from. The ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The future. Must I?
Go forth and know him better, man. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, ho, ho.
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost. It had vanished. And he found himself once more in his bed, in his dressing gown and his nightcap on his head. He heard the clock strike, and then he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld the third spirit, a solemn phantom, shrouded in black, draped and hooded, coming towards him, slowly and silently, like a mist along the ground.
I know you are the ghost of Christmas yet to come. I confess that I fear you more than any specter I've seen so far, but I'm prepared to follow and learn. The lessons of the past and the present are at work within me, and I pray to live to be another man from what I was. Lead on! Will you not speak to me? Very well. The night's waning fast and time's precious.
Scrooge and the spirit did not seem to enter the city as much as it appeared around them and encompassed them. As they moved through the heart of the city, the spirit stopped and directed Scrooge to a gathering of merchants. Scrooge listened eagerly.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
How did it happen? I thought he'd never go.
I don't care about that. I just want to know what he's done with his money.
I haven't heard. I know he hasn't given it to me.
I assume it'll be a very cheap funeral. I don't know anybody who'd go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer?
I don't mind going, if lunch is provided.
Come to think of it, I'll bet I was his best friend.
What?
We used to nod to each other when we met in the street.
I know some of those businessmen, Spirit. Who is this man that died? Is there no one to mourn the poor creature? No one to walk with him to the grave?
The phantom stood quiet and dark beside him as they left the busy scene into an obscure part of town. Though Scrooge had never been to this part of town before, the whole area reeked of crime, filth, and misery. The phantom then guided Scrooge to a wretched shop, and pointed to a small gathering of people, laden with bundles.
Ah, back from the House of Sadness, I see.
Said that he didn't die years ago, the old skinflint.
Yeah. Well, what do you got for old Joe, eh? What do you got for me?
I got these collar buttons from his dresser.
I got his bed curtains. Very fine damask.
Very cheap damask. Worth a few coins.
I got his blankets!
Why, these blankets are still warm. I don't pay extra for the warmth, you know.
You should. It's the only warmth he ever had.
Spirit, I see that the case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heavens. But please, I implore you, let me see some tenderness connected with this world, or I'll be haunted by that terrible conversation forever. Oh, it's Bob Cratchit's house. Oh, yes, Spirit, thank you. A place of joy and laughter. Thank you for bringing me here. It's so quiet. Why is it so quiet, Spirit?
Mother? Mother, you're crying again.
Oh, no. It's just the lamplight. It hurts my eyes.
Oh, no. Not Tim.
My eyes get weak in the dim light. I wouldn't want to show weak eyes to your father when he gets home, for anything in the world.
Father has walked a lot slower these past few evenings.
Yes. And yet I've known him to speed through the city with Tiny Tim on his shoulder. For the weight Tim carried into this life, he made our lives lighter indeed. Bob.
Good evening, my dear.
Children, please go and set the table. How was the churchyard?
I wish you could have gone with me. It would have done your heart good to see how sweet and green the place is. But I know you'll see it often. I promised him. I promised Tim we'd walk there every Sunday.
Oh, Spirit. Must there be a Christmas that brings this? How can we endure it?
It's all right, children. Life brings meetings and partings. We can't change that. And one day we too will depart from one another. But no matter when or how we depart, I know we will never forget Tim Cratchit. Or this first parting that there was among us.
Spirit, I feel our parting moment is at hand. I know it. But tell me, though I'm scared to ask, who is the wretched man whose death brought such glee and happiness to others?
Scrooge and the Phantom then came to a churchyard, walled in by houses and overrun by grass and weeds. It was a wretched place for the wretched man whose name Scrooge needed to know. The Spirit stood among the graves and pointed to one.
Spirit, before I draw nearer to that gravestone, answer me one question. Are these shadows of things that will be, or are they the shadows of things that may be? Will you not speak to me?
Still, the ghost pointed to the grave by which it stood.
These events can be changed. A life can be made right.
The Spirit remained still. Scrooge crept towards the gravestone, following the finger of the ghost, and read the name upon it.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh, Spirit, no. I'm not the man I was. Why show me this if I was past all hope? I promise to honor Christmas and keep it all the year. I'll live my life in the past, the present, and the future. I'll not shut out the lessons the spirits have taught me. Tell me that I may sponge away the writing from a stone in this wretched place. Spirit, please speak to me. Oh, I'm home.
Yes, the bedpost was his own. The room was his own. But what made Scrooge happiest of all was that his life lay before him, and that it could be changed.
I promise I will live my life in the past, the present, and the future. Oh, heaven and Christmas be praised. I say it on my knees, Jacob, on my knees. Oh, my bed curtains, they're not torn down. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. I don't know what day it is.
Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head.
The sun's shining. It's clear. It's bright. No fog. What a beautiful day. Oh, glorious, glorious. Hey, boy. You there, boy.
Yes, sir?
What's today?
What's that, sir?
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today?
Why, it's Christmas Day!
It's Christmas Day. Then I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. All in one night. Heaven be praised.
How's that, sir?
Listen, my lad. You know where the butcher shop is? In the next street?
I should say I do.
Ha! An intelligent lad. A remarkable lad. Tell me, do you know if they sold that prize turkey that was hanging in the window?
The one as big as me? It's hanging there now, sir.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you, lad. Buy it for me, and I'll give you a shilling. Bring it back in 5 minutes, and there's 5 shillings in it for you.
Yes, sir! Yes, sir! And a Merry Christmas, sir!
Ha ha! And a Merry Christmas to you, my boy! I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's house. He won't know who sent it. It's half the size of Tim. Merry Christmas! Ha ha ha! A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to all the world.
He dressed himself in all his best, and at last got out into the streets. By this time, the people were pouring forth, and Scrooge regarded every one with a delighted smile. He had not gone far when he beheld the philanthropist who walked into his counting house the day before.
My dear sir, how do you do?
I beg your pardon?
Well, you, sir. Aren't you the gentleman who came to my office in regard to that charity?
Why, yes. Yes, sir.
A Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, sir.
Allow me to ask your pardon, sir. Put me down for... I prefer to whisper this.
What? But Lord bless me, my dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please. Now, not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?
Well, my dear sir, I don't know what to say to such a gift.
Don't say anything. Please, come and see me.
I will. I will indeed.
Ha ha! Thank you. I am much obliged to you. Thank you 50 times. Bless you. Merry Christmas.
Scrooge walked about the streets, and watched the people hurry to and fro, and questioned beggars, and looked down into the kitchens of houses, and up to the windows, and found that everything could give him pleasure. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. Scrooge passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock.
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?
It's a miracle Fred didn't shake Scrooge's arm off. Nothing could be heartier. It was a wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. The next morning, Scrooge was early at his office. He went early for a simple reason. He wanted to be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. In fact, he'd set his heart upon it. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1/4 past. No Bob. Scrooge sat with his door wide open, that he might see him come in. At last he rushed in. His hat was off before he opened the door, along with his scarf. He jumped on his stool in a jiffy, and was scribbling away with his pen, as if, by furious writing, he could turn the clock back.
15 and 21, 6 and carry the 1, 24 and carry the 2, 31 and 8 and the 9.
Cratchit! What do you mean by coming in at this time of day?
Mr. Scrooge, I am very sorry, sir. I'm very behind my time.
You are. Yes, I think you are.
Mr. Scrooge, I am very sorry. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
I'll tell you, my fine clerk. I'll not stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, Bob Cratchit, I am going to raise your salary.
I'm sorry?
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas than I've given you in many a year. I shall raise your salary, and we'll see what we can do for Tiny Tim and the rest of your family. We'll discuss it this very afternoon, over a Christmas bowl. Bob, make up the fire. Make it up and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a person as the good old city ever knew. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well if anyone alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly be said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one. Thank you for listening to the GMU Voice Acting Club's production of A Christmas Carol. Special thanks to our cast: Graydon Lavallee as Ebenezer Scrooge, Chase Stewart as Bob Cratchit, Joey Tenaglia as Fred, Jace Baby Ace Tate as Philanthropist, Sal McMahon as Child 1, Kai Dermott as Marley, Nathan Wilson as the Ghost of Christmas Past, Chase Bennett as Fezziwig and Merchant 1, Allie Stanich as Belle and Mrs. Cratchit, Ryan Lee as Young Scrooge, Caleb Faulkerson as the Ghost of Christmas Present, Tyler Means as Child 2, Isabel Nemati as Martha, Kei Smith as Tiny Tim, Amanda Ellard as Clara, Ian Montalvo as Partygoer 1 and Old Joe, Shevyn Buhary as Partygoer 2, Margalit Dienstfry as Partygoer 3, Sean Simmons as Merchant 2 and Thief 2, Evan Kelly as Merchant 3 and Thief 1, Naol Afework as Thief 3, and a special shout-out to KC for being a part of that God Rest You Merry Gentlemen choir at the beginning of the show. Thanks again for listening, and happy holidays.
Bob,